He sat there, shoulders broad but hunched as if carrying an invisible weight, dressed in the same suit he had worn to countless military funerals. His name was Daniel, a single dad and a veteran who had given more of his life than he had ever received back. That evening, he sat quietly at the edge of a grand wedding hall, watching strangers laugh, glasses clink, and camera flashes capture joy that didn't belong to him. No one seemed to notice him. To most people, he was just the man sitting alone at a table in the back, an afterthought, maybe even a mistake on the guest list. But inside, his chest tightened, not just from loneliness but from the years of sacrifice that had cost him more than he could explain. He had fought wars overseas, lost friends who never came home, and raised a daughter on his own while fighting battles no one could see. The irony of it all cut deep. He wasn't even here for himself. He had come because his daughter's best friend was the bride, and she had insisted Daniel attend. "You deserve to celebrate, Dad," she had told him. But now, surrounded by laughter and luxury, he felt like an outsider trespassing in a world that didn't belong to men like him. The whispers stung. Polished men in tailored suits and diamond-studded women glanced his way, murmuring under their breath about the man sitting alone with no +1, no family beside him. Daniel lowered his eyes, wishing he could disappear. Then, just when the silence grew unbearable, a shadow fell across his table. A woman in an emerald dress, commanding and radiant, leaned down and whispered so softly he almost thought he imagined it, "Pretend you're with me." He looked up, startled, and met the piercing eyes of a woman he recognized from the newspapers and TV interviews. Eleanor Shaw, the CEO of a billion-dollar tech empire, the kind of woman who carried power in every step and had no reason to acknowledge a man like him. Yet here she was, sliding gracefully into the chair beside him, her hand brushing against his as if they were more than strangers. At first, Daniel stiffened. "I don't think," he began, but she cut him off with a smile so poised it silenced him. "They're staring at you," she said, glancing toward the crowd. "And they're staring at me. If we sit alone, they'll keep whispering. But if we sit together, maybe they'll stop." Daniel wanted to argue, but the warmth of her presence, the confidence in her voice, made something inside him ease for the first time that night. He nodded slightly, allowing her hand to rest over his as though it had always belonged there. Suddenly, the stares shifted. Where once he was invisible, now the room turned with curiosity. Who was this quiet veteran sitting beside one of the most powerful women in the country? As the night unfolded, Eleanor didn't let go of the charade. She laughed at his quiet jokes, leaned close when people passed by, and spoke to him in a way that made him forget, even for brief moments, that they were only pretending. But beneath the performance, there was something genuine, a flicker of recognition between two people who had both built lives out of broken pieces. During dinner, when the hall buzzed with music and chatter, she finally asked the question. "Why did you sit alone?" He hesitated, then gave her the truth. "Because I've always been the one who doesn't belong. Out there," he gestured faintly toward the world beyond the glass walls of the hall. "I knew my place. I fought, I bled, I buried my brothers. But here, among people who measure worth by wealth and status, I'm just nothing." Eleanor's eyes softened. For all her success, her voice carried a quiet ache when she answered. "You think I belong here?" She let out a laugh without humor. "Every room I walk into, they see the CEO, the billionaire, the headline. But no one sees me. Not the girl who started with nothing. Not the woman who fought to be taken seriously. We're not so different, Daniel." Her words struck him deeply, as if she had taken the loneliness from his chest and named it out loud. For the first time in years, someone understood. When the dancing began, she didn't give him the chance to retreat. "Dance with me," she said firmly, rising and holding out her hand. "I don't dance," he muttered, shaking his head. "Then let's just stand there together," she replied. "Pretend we belong." And so he did. He took her hand, and under the shimmering lights, they moved awkwardly at first, then slowly found a rhythm. Daniel wasn't graceful, but she didn't care. To the guests watching, they looked like a couple lost in their own world. To Daniel, it felt like a lifeline, a reminder that he was more than the shadows of his past. But the night wasn't without challenge. A sharp voice interrupted them. "Marcus, Eleanor's business rival, a man slick with arrogance and wealth." "Interesting choice of date, Eleanor," he sneered, glancing at Daniel with disdain. "Didn't realize you were recruiting from the charity table." Daniel felt the old anger rise, the same heat that once carried him through battles. He was ready to walk away, to avoid making a scene, but Eleanor tightened her grip on his hand. She looked Marcus straight in the eye and said, "This man has faced more in one lifetime than you ever will. And unlike you, he doesn't need to prove his worth to anyone." The room went quiet. Marcus sneered and slithered away, but in that silence, Daniel realized something: Eleanor wasn't pretending anymore. She meant every word. By the end of the night, when the hall emptied and laughter faded into the night air, Eleanor and Daniel sat together on the balcony, the city lights glowing in the distance. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice raw. "For tonight. For seeing me." She turned to him with a small smile. "Don't thank me, Daniel. Just promise me something. Stop sitting alone." And in that moment, something shifted inside him. For years, he had lived as if invisible, defined by his sacrifices, carrying his loneliness like armor. But tonight, with a stranger who saw him more clearly than anyone else ever had, he realized he didn't have to live that way anymore. As the camera fades on this story, remember this: sometimes, the most powerful changes come from the smallest gestures, a whispered invitation, a hand to hold, a reminder that none of us were